All right, so this Knife Thoughts video is going to be a review of this knife, and this is the Knafs Lander. So this is the first in-house branded knife for Knafs, but Knafs was founded by Ben Peterson and his wife Athena, and Ben has been, come to be known in the industry for his videos. He worked for CRKT and Blade HQ, and this WIUG, what is up guys, is what he always said in those videos. But then he designed the Wee Banter. And so I saw this knife, the kind of sketch or the design of this knife before it came out on Reddit, and had some not so positive things to say. But Ben, really, I guess, magnanimously offered to send one for review. And I was really surprised by how much I liked it, how practical and good a little knife this was. So since then, I've been following along, and he then brought out the Civivi Baby Banter, so a smaller version. But my initial thoughts on the Banter were that I'd like to see a bigger version, and so there also is the Wee Big Banter. So I've been following along with Ben's kind of entrance into the knife industry, and was really excited and happy for him and Athena and his family to see that he was taking Knafs full-time. So this is a write-up that came with this lander, and you can stop and read this as I kind of scroll through it here, maybe if I don't cover it up. But it talks about his decision, his initial idea and design for the knife, and then his decision to actually go full-time with Knafs, kind of leave his normal job, and really jump fully into the knife industry. And so this Knafs Lander was initially brought out as a Kickstarter. So if you saw there at the end, 1,115 people backed it, and I backed it. I was excited to see this knife, check it out, and really support Ben in doing that. I think that's a great thing to see somebody who I think seems to really, be a positive and genuine person. I haven't met him in person, but all of my interactions with him have been really positive. So I'm happy to see people like that entering into the knife industry. There's some not so savory characters in the knife industry, so it's good to see a good, savory person going into the industry, and it seems like Ben is one of those people. But also, it looked like an interesting little knife. Now, I do prefer a larger knife in my modern knife for EDC, because I tend to carry a slip joint also. But Ben tends to, design these knives a little smaller. He talks about the finger test, seeing if you can get your finger to the end of the blade while still holding the handle, which you can on this Lander. And deep carry pocket clip, so it's not obtrusive and easy to kind of see that you're carrying a knife if you're in an office environment, things like that. But then one of the big kind of selling points for this Lander is its customizability and the ability to maintain it yourself. So you don't need to send this knife in or anything like that. So the thumb studs are removable, and they've actually come out with, kind of custom thumb studs with different features since then. But more interestingly, and what you can probably see here, is that these handles are both very easily removed. So, there's this filler tab here. I think you do have to remove it, but then there's just these two screws in the handle. Same deal over here. You don't have to remove the pivot. So that's the big thing. A lot of knives, to actually take it apart and put new handle scales on, you have to undo the pivot, and then you have to make sure you get it back right so that there's no play, but it has good action, and it's a little bit of a hassle. This, you don't have to do that. They're fast swap or easy swap scales, so that you can take, one off and put another on. Now, there were a blue version and a black version. I actually got the blue version. So these are the G10 scales that came on the knife. Classic blue G10. Ben tends to always offer a blue version. But the other really cool thing is that they have published the STL files, which are, I actually don't know what that abbreviation is for. I probably should, because I look at different designs for 3D printing all the time, but it is a file that can be used to 3D print something. So they put out the files for that, and so what that means is that anybody can 3D print their own scales in whatever, filament, whatever color, add on to it however they want. And I really love that. I think that's a great thing because 3D printing maybe hasn't like burst onto the scene in the way that I think some people thought it would, or the way that it would be cool if it did. But I do think that it's a great thing to be able to make and customize your own things. And 3D printing is a really interesting way to do that. Now, my cousin worked for a 3D printing filament company and has a little, a 3D printer, and made some scales for me. And you can see he put the Knife Thoughts logo on. Now, I think it was something where he was just doing this to kind of test it out. These are like version 1 of the Knife Thoughts Lander scales, but you can see the brain pretty well there. And I have some orange ones also that he made. And the Knife Thoughts didn't come out quite as well there, but still pretty cool. And the texture is interesting on this orange one. And to show you the inside, it's amazing how well the 3D printers can, duplicate that. So you can see the detail on the 3D printed version. So I think that's a really cool thing. I think that people are going to do a lot with that. You could make different textures, you could make even different shapes. You could take the STL files and modify them to your liking. So if you wanted it to have, more of a hump on the handle, if you wanted to have it be more rounded on the handle, if you wanted it to be a little longer or something like that, have a point to the handle. You could basically get as creative as you want. And I think that's a really, really cool thing. I like this purple with the sparkles in it. I like every now and then I like my knife to be a little bit garish. So I do like that, and I think it's pretty fun. I just really like that that's something that was important on this knife, is to make it both customizable and maintainable for the end user. And also, Knafs has come out with a couple, unique handle scales that they've sold for this knife. So like the topography of the moon was one of them, some Space Kitty scales, things like that. So I think that's really cool. Now, moving on to the knife itself. It's a good little EDC knife. I think this is like the Wii Banter, a knife that's very practical. So it's not super flashy. It's just a thumb stud opener. It does have ball bearings, so you can see that it's very, very smooth. And like I said, I didn't have to adjust the pivot. This is how it came from the factory, from Kickstarter. Perfectly solid side to side, perfectly solid forward and back when locked. Has a really kind of classic drop point blade shape. Very, good amount of straight edge, a nice belly, a usable tip, but not super aggressive looking. Nice stone wash on there. This is D2 steel, which I really like D2 steel. Some people don't. I really do. I'm very used to D2 steel, and I think it works really well. I think it's plenty stainless and holds an edge really well for being a budget steel, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the handle is really comfortable. So just like, again, on the Banter, where my pinky kind of rests on this flat area here, so it's comfortable despite the handle, not being quite long enough for a full 4-finger grip. Same deal here. So you get your grip there, and then my pinky just rests right there. So I think, the design of that handle is really nice. It's comfortable in the hand. Pinch style grip, hammer style grip, whatever you're going to use it for, it's going to be pretty comfortable. It's also a nice size. It's a little more slender than the Wii Banter. So, for me, I like that. Some people like a real thick knife. I don't really. So I like that. Nice and easy to carry. I'll show you a comparison again to the Banter. So it's less wide than the Banter. And then the Baby Banter, it's a little longer, which the Baby Banter is a really short knife. So to give you a comparison of edge length, you're getting like an inch more edge length on the Lander. And I think that you get pretty much as much edge length as most people really use in a normal EDC day. So I think that the design is really nice. The deep carry pocket clip is very deep carry. It'll actually, your pocket will come slightly above the handle. So for an EDC focused and non-obtrusive, not really a tactical knife, but just a practical little EDC knife, I think the design is great. And the other great thing is that it came in at a really good price. So these might have been a little bit less on the Kickstarter. I don't even really remember, but I know that now they're about $58. There might be shipping on top of that, but basically $60. So they're actually about the same price as the Civivi Baby Banter. And though the Baby Banter sometimes has micarta or G10 versus this having just G10, I think that that's a good price, $58. That's a very budget-friendly knife. You know, pretty much anybody that's buying this type of kind of enthusiast knife, not just a utility knife, is, you know, that's a budget-friendly price. So I really like that Knafs Co. was able to bring it to the market at that price also. And I think it's a great little EDC knife for someone looking, you know, for something just to carry and use for your normal everyday tasks. The Lander is a good option. So I'm really looking forward to what else Ben and Athena and everyone at Knafs Co. Comes out with. They just recently came out with a like a torque spit tool. So I haven't gotten that, but just something to check out. And you know, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoy the knife. If you grab one, let them know that you heard about it from Knife Thoughts. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and select all so you know when I post new videos. Check my other social media out. I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Knife Thoughts, and my website, knifethoughts.com, where I post articles on knives like this and knife-related topics. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.